Hi, it's Penny here, and today we're going to be putting together my TBR for October, which is the spooky month. And for a long time, I've been putting aside a couple of spooky books to read in October, so we'll see if we can fit those into the TBR. But as usual, I will be using my TBR Machine website that generates random reading prompts to pick 3 books. I'm just going for 3 books lately because I just started a new job. Life is crazy, and 3 books is actually enough of a challenge. And I still will be reading audiobooks and library books on top of that, so I'll probably still end up with too much to read. So firstly, I do just want to touch on library books. I expect in October I'll still be reading Oathbringer, unless like I lose my job and I decide to escape from reality. There's just no way that I'll get through this month. But I am really enjoying it. It's the 3rd book in the Stormlight Archives. It's an impossible series to describe because there's so much going on. And this is the 3rd book in the series, so anything I say really would spoil you. But I am really loving that. As well, I got Deck of Omens by Christine Lynn Herman from the library. It's this beautiful copy with sprayed edges, and it's also the final book in the duology, the first book being The Devouring Grey. So in this series, we have these 4 founding families of this town, and each family has different magical abilities, and they use those abilities to keep this demon type creature locked away in the fog and keep people safe from it. There were some elements that I really enjoyed in the first book, so I'm excited to see how it's going to wrap up. Also, before I get into picking my prompts, I wanted to say, so next month I have a plan. I've been thinking about how I could introduce punishments into my TBR game. So like if I don't read the books that I said I was going to read, I should be punished. But generally people make the punishments something like read a terrible book. And that just sounds awful to me. I know it's supposed to be a punishment, so it's supposed to be awful, but like, no. I don't want that. Also, like, since I started working again, I just feel so short on time that why would I want to waste time reading a book that I didn't think I was gonna like if I could be reading a book that I did enjoy? Just, it's not something I'm interested in. So I was thinking of a better punishment, and I think what I'm gonna do is set up both a reward and a punishment system. So back before I started my new job, I created a list of all the things I wanted to buy when I started working again and when I started having money again. So what I'm gonna do is for every book I finish, I'm gonna reward myself by buying one thing off that list. And then, if I don't read a book off my TBR, I instead have to take the money and donate it to charity. Now, I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work with deciding how much I donate, because I'm not going to pre-select which things I want to buy off the list, because I want to buy them in the moment, whatever I'm the most excited for. Also, some of the things on my list are going to be hard to find, so it might depend on what I can find. But I figured this was the kind of punishment where, if I'm being punished, at least I can still feel good about myself because I'm doing something good for charity. And I've always thought that I should donate more to charity than I do, so maybe this will help me with that. What I would love is if you know of any charities that you think are particularly deserving, put them down below so that I can check them out, and then maybe I'll pick the charities from there. I haven't really planned this out yet, but we'll work it out. And then in my wrap up, I'll tell you how well I did. So with all of that out of the way, let's pick the first prompt. Read the shortest book on your TBR. I wonder what it is. Okay, so the shortest book on my TBR is The TBR Machine and Other Stories by H.G. Wells. I don't often like classics. However, I do like time travel. So this is a story I wanted to read. I picked this up I think for like $2 from a bargain bin. It's probably not the prettiest edition, but I am really interested to read the story. I don't know much more about it other than there's a time machine. I really think I watched the movie at some point, but don't remember it. Anyway, that's the first book. Let's pick the next prompt. Read a book released 10 or more years ago. Now, I'm pretty sure I have a million of those on my TBR cart because a lot of them are older fantasy. So the hard part is going to be picking which one I want to read. Okay, so I can fit one of the books that I was saving for October into this prompt, and that is Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. I don't know anything about this other than it's Gillian Flynn who wrote Gone Girl, and I also read Sharp Objects by her. I kind of liked them, like I'm maybe not a mega fan, but I did want to read this. This is another one that I got for super cheap from a thrift shop. And October is a really good time to read thrillers, so this will be my one for that. I will also say there are several readathons that I'm eyeing up in October, but I haven't committed to any yet because I don't know how to fit that stuff in my life at the moment. So we'll have to see how that works out as the month goes along, or at least when we get closer to the month, because maybe in another week or two I'll be used to working. Probably not. Okay, let us pick the final prompt. Read a book with purple on the cover. Okay, another one that I have been putting aside for October. This one is The Kneebone Boy by Ellen Potter. This is one that I picked up from a little library. You can see it's an ex-library book. It's also a middle grade book, but of the highest reading level. So this is another one though that I don't know much about. There's these 3 children, and I remember reading the blurb, and it did say something about how they're all very strange. And it says it's wickedly dark, unusual, and compelling. Honestly, it's got a cat on the cover. Cats on the cover are always a yes from me. So these are going to be the 5 books on my TBR for October, and if I read them all, I can be rewarded. If I don't, I'll be punished by being forced into being a nice person. It does seem like a fairly realistic pile, does it? I don't know what speed I read at anymore, so who knows. Also, for those of you really paying attention, I do still need to read these 2 books for my secret library project. I don't know when I'll get around to that, but one day we'll finish that video. Maybe it'll be in October. Who knows? As well, I do also have quite a lot of audiobooks that I will probably be reading in October, but honestly, I have so many audiobooks out at the moment, and I don't know how many I'm going to get through by the end of September. This is the problem with pre-filming your TBR. But let me make some guesses. I think it's quite likely that I will be listening to The Silver Mask by Holly Black and Cassandra Clare. This is the 4th book in the Magisterium series, which is basically just a magic school series. But I quite like the way it's dealing with the chosen one versus the dark enemy kind of trope. And there were some things revealed at the end of the 3rd book which did make me excited to read this 4th book. So I'll be glad to get to that. I also have the 3rd and final book of the Scythe series. So that is The Toll by Neil Shusterman. This is set in a world where no one dies anymore. Supposedly it's a perfect world, except that because they have overpopulation, they have nominated these scythes who choose people to die to keep the population under control. And primarily we're following several different scythes as they learn about some problems in the world. I was very unimpressed with the 1st book in the trilogy. The 2nd book in the trilogy I almost liked, but I've heard very mixed opinions about the 3rd book, so I don't know how I'm going to feel about it. I guess we will find out in October. I also think that I'll be getting to The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. So this is one where I expect the writing to be very lyrical. I've read The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, and that was beautiful, but I admit very difficult to understand and not great if you don't like things to be ambiguous. And in this one, there's a boy who finds his own story in a book and things get very strange from there. I expect it to be also not very clear what's going on, but since I did enjoy reading The Night Circus via audiobook, I thought I would try the same format with The Starless Sea. And The Starless Sea is also one of the books on my 20 books that I wanted to read in 2020. In fact, The Toll is on that list too, so I am doing very well with that list, even though I'm cheating by reading them on audiobook. But is it cheating? No, it's not. And maybe some other audiobooks will hang over from September, or I'll find some more holds. I don't think 3 audiobooks is enough, but let's say 3 for now because that's a nice, easy commitment. Because I think the audiobooks count in the reward and punishment as well, do they? Yes, I think they do. So that means I've committed to 8 books in total, which does mean that maybe I could buy 8 things for myself. The only downside of this strategy that I've come up with is that if I read all my books, I almost feel bad. But really, I do need some motivation to read less. That was one of my reading goals for this year, so maybe it will help with that as well. Anyway, that is my TBR for October. Let me know if you've read any of these books and whether you think I'm going to like them or not. And of course, remember to leave me some charities down below so I can work out where my punishment money will go if I end up being punished. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you're doing well, and I will see you next time.